Welcome to the channel, King Lizard, and today I'm talking Outriders. This is basically my game preview. I've been playing the game initially on its original demo, and then when it released and became available on Xbox Game Pass on April 1st, 2021. So at this point I've had 28 days of gameplay and enough experience I think at this point to talk about the game. The one thing I won't be doing is classing this as any kind of official review because I haven't finished it and I haven't played with two of the other classes in the game. For me, when I review a game, I have to pretty much have done everything the game has to offer. So this is my preview and this is my experiences. Now, Outriders, if you're not familiar with it, is a third-person shooter. It's very frenetic, it's very brutal. There's a lot of gore and stuff in this game, much to my liking. And the action is quite intense. It plugs itself as a cover-based shooter, which it partially is, but to be honest, a lot of the time the AI are so in your face you rarely actually get to use the cover. The cover is a feature of the game, but a lot of the time you're pushed out of cover by the AI. They're pretty aggressive and they don't sit back and give you any space to play. This game is very much an intense third-person shooter. It isn't going to let you sit back on the bylines and snipe people from a distance. It's going to get in your face and you're going to have to deal with it. And a big part of this game are managing your character's powers. Now there are 4 classes. I've been playing the Technomancer, although my primary class was the Devastator. There are 2 others, the Pyromancer and also the Trickster, which I haven't played yet. So the footage you'll see in this video that's going on in the background is relevant to the Technomancer and the Devastator. Now, the character skills that I've hit so far, I really love what I'm seeing of the Technomancer, and I have to thank a good friend Tristan from Instagram for encouraging me to look at Technomancer, because it's actually a very good class. And as a single player experience, which I've been doing in line with co-op with my friend, I'm actually finding the Technomancer a really good character to play in single player. It's one of the stronger classes out of the Devastator and the Technomancer, at least anyway. I'm not so sure about the other 2 yet, like I said, because I haven't played those, but Technomancer's got some really cool skills, one of which my favourite of is the Tool of Destruction. It's absolutely brutal. Initially if you just tap RB, you'll get a rocket launcher. You can blast enemies, does severe damage. I've taken so many boss enemies out with one use of Tool of Destruction, it's unreal. The other thing you can do, if you press and hold the RB button, you get a minigun. And if you set that up properly with your powers, you can actually have replenishing bullets and health as you're killing stuff. And it's pretty devastating, as you'll see in the clips that I put up in this video. The other thing I like, you've got kind of this, initially when you first start Technomancer, you've got a little rocket pod you put down beside you or wherever you want to chuck it, and it fires basically a hellstorm of rockets, slowly increasing its trajectory and range as it fires out. And that's pretty devastating, pretty cool to see. You also have a turret which you chuck out, kind of starts freezing enemy, which again is actually really helpful, because when it starts freezing the enemy, it draws their attention and their line of fire to it and not you. And you'll be thankful for that when you play the game, as you'll probably see in some of these clips. Devastator is very much an in-your-face type character. You've got to get in close quarters combat, take enemy out quickly, and you're pretty much living on the edge the whole time. You're very much near-death experience while you're taking out enemy and being successful, using the occasional bit of cover if you can find some. The whole mechanic of the game, I think, and this is where some of its problems lies, because it's very much an in-your-face experience. And initially I thought, well, okay, I'm going to play Devastator, that's CQB, I can get in close quarters, getting on the action, and keep myself alive by killing stuff quick. But it actually turns out, as I learn more about the various classes, that's pretty much the gameplay in general, not necessarily that class. The key in this game is managing your skills with your level ups to, you know, replenish ammo, replenish health, your skill leech, where you can draw health from enemy and stuff, as well as anomaly power to keep things ticking over and allow you to become this, you know, crazily overpowered being with anomaly powers. And, you know, when you get it right, it's pretty satisfying. And 75% of the time, it goes right. I think one of the big things with this game that will be I want to play this, I don't want to play this for a lot of people, is that it is actually quite tough. You know, it is a very hard shooter, and you're going to need to do a bit of working things out. You know, you can't just jump in and hope to get through a level. I mean, you can to some degree, but you know, there will be bosses that you'll meet and you'll have to reinvent the wheel with your skills to try and get past them. And that's the great thing, you know, once you're building up your skill tree, you can actually reset it and start over whenever you want. So if something isn't getting you past a particular level, you can try something different with the skill powers or points that you've unlocked at that point. So I do like that aspect of it as well. It's got a gear system very similar to a lot of these types of shooters, you know, Destiny, The Division. The thing I like about this game is the gear system is actually quite simple compared to a lot of other games out there. I can very easily look at a gun and go, okay, that's more powerful, you know, it's going to do more damage. It's where it gets to anomaly power and stuff. I don't fully understand that as yet, but in terms of understanding, you know, what weapons do more damage and which ones are more effective and worth keeping, it seemed pretty straightforward to me most of the time. And I do like that, because the thing I hate about gear systems, most specifically The Division, I find that quite confusing a lot of the time. And I kind of think I understand it, and then someone else will come along and say, well, no, you're doing this, you want to be doing this, and like, headache time, you know. With Outriders, I find the gear system a lot more friendly, and I do like it a lot for that. In terms of customization, I think the one weakness in this game, there's a lot of different looks in the game, and there's a hell of a lot of different bits of equipment stuff you can pick up. I find that a lot of the time it's kind of that joke meme where you've got the guy that's all powerful and he looks pretty crap, really. You know, there's got all this mixture of gear and it looks really odd. And Outriders can be a bit like that sometimes. You know, you can get cool looking characters, as you've seen some of my screenshots, but you know, you can also get this real weird mix that just doesn't look right and you're not overly happy with. And I think the one thing that Square Enix missed out with on Outriders is doing a gear customization to the level of, say, For Honor. In For Honor, if you got a sword that you liked, that, you know, the stats of, you might not necessarily like the aesthetic and the way it looked, so you could actually save the aesthetic and then use it on all of your gear. So if you found something you liked the look of, you could use that aesthetic across any of your character's gear. And I think that's what they should have done with Outriders, was allow you to keep the aesthetic of your gear and get the look that you want for your clothing, for your boots, your gloves, and all your weapons. I think that would have been a better feature, and maybe it's something that Square Enix will consider doing, you know, long term. But right now you're stuck with the way the gear looks as you find it. You can't modify its look in any way. But there's still some pretty good customization though. I do like the level of detail they've put in the gear and the guns. They all look pretty cool. And it's, you know, it is quite exciting to kill stuff and then find a new weapon. In terms of levels of gear, you've got your generic common, you know, your green, you've got your white, which is your basic, and then you've got your rare, which is your blue, you've got your epic, which are purple, and then you've got your legendaries, which are orange. I've only got one of those. You'll see that in the video. It's like a shotgun, flaming shotgun, looks quite cool. So, you know, multiple levels of gear. But yeah, the gear is quite, you get it, you feel quite rewarded sometimes, and it's actually fun to play with and mess around with. You can change certain statistics on the gear as well. You can even level up a weapon if you like it and keep it current so that you can carry on playing with it. So all those aspects are quite fun. For me, probably one of the things I love most about this is boss fights and stuff to some degree. You know, boss fights are very impressive and look amazing, but sometimes they do feel just that little bit bullshit. where you're fighting a boss and then they jump at you, and you could have swore blind you hit the right button. I mean, I've got this phase shift thing I use on my Devastator that makes me pass through solid objects, and the amount of times I've used that and it's made no difference is quite infuriating. There seems to be like this huge area of effect that just stops your character dead, and it really does feel quite bullshit sometimes, to the point it's agonizingly frustrating. That is something I'd like them to fix. I mean, you'll see in the clips here that my character is being hit and then he kind of just stands still for what feels like the longest time. If you're stood still in this game for split seconds, you're dead. Some of the bosses one hit kill you, and it's not amusing, because some of the levels in this game, the checkpoints are painful. There's one particular level where you fight a couple of areas and you think you've just fought a boss, and you think, damn, that was bloody tough. You got murdered a couple of times or 2-3 times, and you came back and you finally got through it, and then the second boss kicks in and you're like, you're kidding. And then you die by the second boss, and it spawns you back at the beginning of everything, and it's like, fuck off. I just worked my ass off to get through this, and you put me back 20 minutes of gameplay. I appreciate it's trying to be tough and stuff, but at the same time, the checkpoints are punishing sometimes. Not all the time. I'd probably say maybe 5% of the time. As you progress your story or your progress in Outriders, you basically get to these checkpoints where you put a banner in the ground, you get a respawn point there, and you also get restock of ammo. Those are quite well managed. You can actually customize your banner as well, which you'll unlock extra graphics and looks for by completing your challenges. Now, your challenges are known as this accolade section in the game, and in the accolades you'll unlock stuff as you progress through the game to allow you to further customize things like your banner as well as your vehicle. You've got this big truck thing that you drive around in, you can customize that, and you unlock parts for as well. There's actually a ton of challenges in Outriders, so if you like to be a completionist and you like a lot of things to do, this game will give you that. Game size wise, this is a pretty epic game, as I was saying earlier. It's a massive experience in terms of value for money. From the size of the game, I would rate it very highly. Wardrobe change. So I wanted to add to the video, game level design is very impressive in Outriders. There are several areas that really impressed me, one of which was the ancient ruins in the jungle. There's also another level in the jungle which is a stronghold. It's a huge enemy camp, lots of different layers to it. Really impressive, really great level design as far as I'm concerned. The first area you're in, you kind of eventually get to a almost Somme area where you're in the trenches fighting enemy and stuff. That looks really pretty cool, and was a nice change in pace and stuff. As well as the area I've just hit, which is the desert. So you've kind of got this open, barren desert, lots of bones and stuff everywhere, which look pretty impressive. But we've just literally hit a vegetation area in the desert that looks absolutely gorgeous, and actually reminded me of Gears of War 4's wind flares and stuff. So there's a big storm brewing and stuff in the game, and that looks really impressive, really nicely done. So game level design, developers have done a fantastic job with this game. You're going to see lots of different things and some very impressive areas. The one thing that also kind of clicked with me, which I wanted to mention in the video, was that when you're fighting humans, you typically have cover. When you're fighting creatures, you don't. So there's kind of a balance between creature fights and human fights, and obviously that's probably because the creatures maybe would have been a lot more difficult to animate stuff, jumping over walls and stuff like that. But majority of the time there's no cover around when you're fighting creatures. I would say 95% of the time. With humans, again, probably 95% of the time when you're fighting them, there is cover. Outriders from a story perspective is interesting at the moment. I don't know enough about the story to talk about it too much, and I deliberately avoided going into the story in this video because I don't want to give anyone any spoilers about the game as such. So the story itself is interesting, and there's a lot of factors, and it's slowly unraveling itself. And there actually is a very sizable story here too. You also get side quests involving, saving family members, tracking down family members or friends, as well as going looking for missing soldiers and that kind of stuff. So there's quite a good variation of side quests. Some of my favourites of which include bounty hunts, or actually tracking down specific targets who are basically boss battle humans that are altered like yourself with anomaly powers, and they typically are elemental, so fire, ice, those types of scenarios. The other thing I really love, although they are very difficult at times, is the creature hunts. So basically you go out looking for specific creatures and you kill them, you bring them back to this guy in the trench, and he basically will give you a reward and stick the head of the creature up on the bar or behind the bar. That's quite an interesting side of the game that I really do enjoy, although it is very tough. The other aspects you've got are there's collectibles around the map that you pick up. There are also crates or loot crates around the map that you also pick up, as well as resources. There's materials that you can drill for in the area. Nothing too intricate that draws you away from the story. It's kind of a 2-second thing where you drill a bit of a wall and then you get some iron or some other materials to help you craft your weapons and stuff. The other mission side quests are historian missions, where you actually go out and you'll go to a particular area looking for a historical artifact, and that historical artifact, once you complete the mission, as per all the other side quests, will give you a piece of gear, whether it's clothing, boots, helmet, or whether it's weapons. I'd love the developers to change the pickup of your people you're playing with when they go down, and the reason for that is when someone goes down, you never ever get to pick them up. It's pretty rare, and it's nigh on impossible to pick them up because the enemy will literally be on you in seconds and smash you off the person you're trying to pick up. Especially in open areas when you're finding creatures, it is practically impossible to recover an ally in those situations. And the current pickup is just too slow for the pace of the game. They need to change it so that if you get to your buddy, you can pick them up very quickly, or at least have a skill that allows you to do that. So that would be my only kind of criticism on the the revive situation in the game. But yeah, back to normal programming. Costume change. Which gets me on to my next point. I've been playing since April the 1st, as I said. When I played the beta or the demo, I had no issues at all. Other than getting into the game the first day, obviously the servers were knackered, and that's quite typical of games these days, right? So we can't beat it up for that. However, the first month of play was pretty painful. Playing co-op with my friend, I would regularly get dashboarded. I'd get disconnection from host errors and be chucked in the level on my own. I actually missed a boss battle because of that. My friend completed it while I got dropped, so I actually missed out the completion on a particular level. Luckily I could replay it. It got pretty frustrating. The only saving grace, forgive the pun, the only saving grace in the game is that the checkpoints in terms of when it crashes, saving your progress and what you've done, are second to none. Square Enix have got that down to a T, and I absolutely love that when this game crashes, obviously I don't love the crashes, but when it does crash, you don't lose any progress. There are a lot of other people out there, and I'm looking at you, Activision, and Cold War Black Ops, which is bloody dreadful. There are a lot of other games out there that can learn from what Square Enix have done with this permanently online third-person shooter. As of yet, I've lost no progress, even though, I'm not kidding, I must have got dropped 100 times this month trying to play this game. And it was getting pretty frustrating to the point where my friend has actually stopped playing the game. It's not the only reason he stopped playing the game. He's finding it a bit BS sometimes as well, in terms of dying for no reason in the game, or dying when you're clearly trying to avoid dying. And the game just seems a bit over the top sometimes. But you know, the whole drop, and you know, that was a big part of my friend getting fed up and just not playing the game anymore. Hopefully we'll return to it sometime soon. But the solo side of the game, you know, even in solo, I was getting dropped by the server. You know, server disconnect, dumped out the game, and have to go back. And like I said, the only saving grace was that when I came back, I was actually back where I should have been without loss of progress or any gear that I picked up. Bug-wise, there are bugs in the game. Haven't seen a huge number, to be honest. Probably some of the more frustrating ones was I actually played a level co-op with my friend, which I've now played single player and had exactly the same experience. And that was basically where, you know, we finished the area. There were 2 enemies left behind an iron door that we couldn't get to, and we had to obviously kill them to finish the level officially, but then the door didn't open and we couldn't progress. So we had to leave the game, come back, and when we came back, it actually put us inside the iron door. And the same happened to me in solo as well. So there are little bugs like that. I've also had 5 instances now where, you know, as you finish an area, you can kind of force your way into the next area. There's an obstruction that you blow away with your powers. And I've had 5 instances now where it's not highlighted, so you can't do it. You can't progress. And the only way around it, leave the game, come back, start over. So that can be a little frustrating, but it's not a huge issue. And given the gameplay and how much I love playing this game, it's a small problem I can live with. The past week, I'm happy to report that Outriders is a lot more reliable. I've not been dropped, touch wood, once this week. Not been dropped at all. So I'm hoping that the reliability is coming back, but I am only playing solo at this point. I've not played any multiplayer. So I'm just hoping that, you know, the multiplayer side is fixed as well. Leave some comments below, obviously, if you've got alternate feedback. But as I'm playing solo at the moment, I'm not experiencing any issues as of this week, and quite enjoying the game, albeit very tough sometimes. So that's pretty much my take on Outriders. You know, as I said, it's a frenetic third-person shooter. It's very brutal, very gory. So if gore's not your thing, this is probably not the game for you. If you don't like intense shooters that get in your face and make your life very hard, probably not for you either. If you love epic boss battles, great shooting action, lots of funky weapons that do all kinds of things, nice customization looks and stuff, lots of gear to pick up, you're going to love this game. Especially the gaming world. It looks fantastic, Outriders. Really love what they've done. Obviously this is a at People Can Fly game. I actually also like the fact they've got some little Easter eggs in there. So far I've found a few Bulletstorm references in the game, which are nice to find as well as a gamer. But for me right now, if it weren't for all of the drops and the technical issues I've had playing the game, I'd easily give this game a 9 out of 10 for me. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Right now, with all the disconnects that have been happening and everything, and as a month experience, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. And I've been quite kind there, because it did get quite frustrating. But I'd highly recommend this if you love your third-person shooters. Thoroughly enjoyable game, and hopefully Square Enix can pin down the reliability, get it 100%. I think they may have damaged some of their game sales because of the reliability of this initially, but I hope they can get this game back on track and get it to its 100% glory, because this is a game that deserves to be a big hit for me. Absolutely love it. I hope you enjoyed the video and the clips that I put together. I will be back with more gaming goodies on King Lizard's Game Lounge in the not too distant future. If you watched this far, big thanks for watching. Take care, keep well, most importantly, come back soon.